right. Well, I would like to welcome everyone that has joined our meeting. A couple reminders for everyone on this call. This session will be recorded just as all the other sessions will be. You will notice that your video is turned off and you are on mute. Please feel free to turn on your video at any time. There are two ways to provide input. One, you can leave a comment in the chat box, and you should find some chat controls at the bottom of your screen. You can also raise your virtual hand, and you will be put in the queue, and we will invite you to unmute yourself and speak when it is your turn. In an effort to hear from everyone, please try to keep your comments brief and your questions brief. Please feel free to use the chat box if you have any logistical needs or questions, and we will work to address those quickly. And you can leave this room at any time and join any other topic room, but please join the Zoom main meeting around 8:15 so we can all reconvene at the end. So, Ryan, would you mind pulling up the additional slide as well, the REOC slide for us?
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure.
And then I'll go ahead and introduce us, I guess, in the meantime. My name is Jeanette McClure. I'm the chairperson for the Revenue Enhancement Oversight Commission. I am joined by my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Elwood. I don't know if you want to rave. Yeah, perfect. Commissioner Skopinski. And then I'm not sure if Vice Chair Hamari is in our session yet, but if he is, yes, okay, perfect.
I am.
I can only see 4 people on my screen, so thank you. And then Commissioner Quaglino. Not sure if he's on here. I would also like to introduce everyone to our assistant to the city manager, Ryan Betts. We will be punting most questions that we don't know over to Ryan. So he'll get ready for that. And then Kevin Christian is working behind the scenes on everything, and I believe he is not on video right now. So I'll start off before we open up the floor to any questions on a little background on the local revenue measure. So the local revenue measure is Measure G. We've identified a couple priorities. They're listed on the screen. They include protecting, whoops, Ryan.
I'm trying to make it bigger. I really.
No, it's perfect. It's completely fine.
Okay, got it.
So sure. The local revenue measure priorities are protecting the city's financial stability, maintaining fire and community safety, health and emergency disaster preparedness, protecting creeks from pollution, addressing homelessness, keeping public areas clean and safe, retaining local businesses, maintaining youth and senior services, maintaining streets, maintaining open space and natural areas, and other general services. So that's kind of a broad overview of what the local revenue measure encompasses. Our commission was established to provide transparency and maximize city accountability. So we are responsible for reviewing and making budget recommendations directly to the city based on community input, like tonight. So I would like to open it up and see if anyone has any questions or comments for the REOC. And I'll see if I can figure out how to open the chat too. And everyone, please feel free to turn on your cameras. Otherwise, I'm going to start calling out people. Just kidding.
And you should have your ability to turn your video on the bottom left if you choose so.
Yes, we have no formal presentation. This is strictly question and answer, community input. It's going to be really awkward if no one says anything. Awesome. Thank you, Garrett. Let's see. It says ask to unmute. Are you unmuted now?
I just unmuted myself, and
perfect.
I am trying to multitask. So I'm doing dishes and trying to participate as much as possible.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess one of my comments as somebody who helped promote Measure G is to really ask the commission going forward to really allocate some significant funding to build out the hopefully soon to be approved tier 1 project list from the active transportation plan. It's going to cost a lot, and I think one of the best ways that we could potentially do that is by pulling a bond against the Measure G revenue, and that way we can kind of build the infrastructure at a quicker pace, which will bring a lot of benefit to the community, help make our transportation system more equitable, help meet our climate action goals. So it's a big chunk of money that's going to be needed, but if we try and do it by just allocating little bits here and there as money becomes available, it's going to be really slow going. But if we pull a bond to build it out in the time frame that we're shooting for, then I think that's our best chances of getting that infrastructure in place and reaping the benefits as soon as possible.
Thank you, Garrett. I appreciate it. And I think the majority of the answer or comments relating to issuing bonds will be directed at Ryan, told you.
Thank you.
So I think I'll pass it over to him on this.
And real quick, Garrett, in case you leave to another station, your input is we're hearing, we're listening. If you could do me a favor, and we're using kind of this opportunity to do Q&A, but you provided a lot of great input for the commissioners to consider. So if you could summarize that and make sure you put that in the chat box, staff will make sure that ends up in the online community forum survey. And then folks can use a dotocracy starting tomorrow for next 10 days to really assign those dots to the top priorities. So it's really important that you take that information in a very summary fashion. Think of it as a survey, maybe a sentence or less, and put that in the chat box if you could do that. You bring up an excellent point in terms of bonding for larger scale projects. The city, like a lot of cities, does that for major infrastructure projects. It'll really be up to the Revenue Enhancement Oversight Commission and ultimately the City Council on which projects get selected to be funded by the local revenue measure. But we will be analyzing, and we've always analyzed, what's the correct and right way to fund these projects. And in some cases, especially with things like the local revenue measure, we can certainly bond and get a really good interest rate for the next 20, 25 years. And we can stretch those dollars for more projects. That does a number of different things. One, it kind of gets started on some of the infrastructure projects we want to do. And also it enables us to cover a broad range of infrastructure projects that we normally would only be able to do 1 or 2 per year. So you've already provided a monetary financial mechanism to do that. That's great. You definitely sound very in touch with how cities operate. So please include that in your chat box as well. And then just a reminder for everyone else, we want to hear your questions. You can certainly use, we encourage everyone to use the hand feature. Kevin, can you maybe get some instructions in the chat box on how to do that in case folks don't know how to do that. We don't see any right now. We want to make sure we use everyone's time efficiently and effectively. So if you'd like to ask the commission a question and want to verify anything related to the local revenue measure, this would be an excellent opportunity to do that, to raise your hand, and we will call on you first come, first serve.
Ryan, it's Kevin. There's actually a couple of questions that you may want to address in the chat box.
Okay, I'm going to read these to the commission. Give me 1 second. We have a question from Travis. Can you please provide some basic information on how fund allocation decisions will be made?
Sure, so I can take that from a broad level. As the REOC, we have the city council comes to us, or the city staff comes to us and prepares a budget based on events like this, which influence the major city goals. And based on those goals, the city creates a financial plan and then puts together a budget. and then presents it to the REOC. And everyone on the REOC, all the commissioners, we're volunteers. We all have daytime jobs. We're the Citizens Oversight. And so we review what the city presents to us, and we either say yay or nay. This looks like it, meets what we intended it to meet as the citizens of San Luis Obispo, or, please send it back for revision. So that's our job. That's kind of how the funds are allocated. But it's based on need, and it's based on what the citizens want. I don't know if any of the other commissioners have anything you'd like to say, or if Ryan would like to add anything to that. Yes.
Yeah, hi. I would just add, I recently joined the commission, but my general understanding and frame of reference is or I intend to be looking at the recommendations as you said, from city staff, and really just look for alignment with the ballot measure outline, and also alignment with the kinds of input that we receive along the way from the community. So I think we obviously are going to be leaning, and there's a high degree of value and trust established, expertise with the staff. And so I think, for the most part, we will, at least myself, will be looking to just reconfirm that what's coming out in the proposed budget is in alignment with the priorities as I understand them, and as we're in the ballot measure primarily.
Thank you. Perfect.
The next question is from Lindsay, and she asks, when we voted for Measure G, this was to increase fire and safety services. What are you going to do to support that?
So I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I believe that the fire and safety services was specifically related to Measure G20, which was just passed in November. Is that correct? That's
correct. And I think I'll, if it's the pleasure of the chairperson, I could take just a quick lead at this. Lindsay, this is the time, this is your opportunity to inform the Revenue Enhancement Oversight Commission on how you would like fire and police and public safety to be addressed. This is an excellent opportunity for you to talk or provide in the chat what you would like to see the local revenue measure. So in a sense, you have the power right now to inform the commission on what you would like to see that funding be used for community safety.
Yes, I can't. Is she still on?
Kevin, is she still on?
She just posted a response.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool.
Oh, hi, Lindsay. Lindsay,
Okay.
you can unmute yourself if you'd like, or maybe I can.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask you to unmute, Lindsay.
Oh, she says she can't because.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Totally understand. If you have any ideas, Lindsay, we would love to hear them, even if you just want to put them in the chat box. The reason I asked on the timeline for it, so the priorities and the funds that we spent over the last 2 years were based on the last priorities, and the fire has become a priority with the recent passing in November of the G20. And so this forum right now is to decide, how do we support our firefighters going forward? So if you have any ideas, we would love to hear them.
You can write,
Wait, hold on. We're right here. Can you guys hear us?
Yes. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
Okay, tell us everything.
I'm not sure even specifically what you want me to share.
Do you have any ideas for areas
Sorry,
that
we're getting our kids out the door and there's a transition. Hang on. Okay. Okay, the clamor has gone, so now I can talk.
So if you have any ideas or anything that you've noticed that is lacking in funding, if there's a specific area that you think we can have local revenue measures address, anything specific where we could try to figure out how to allocate money from the budget would be really helpful. If you had any ideas on specifics.
I mean, I don't even know if I wouldn't even be able to articulate on the exact specifics. I just get, as the wife, I'm getting feedback, sorry, but as the wife, I just get like the impression in general that we have this feeling in San Luis Obispo, like, oh, firefighters and they're overpaid and all et cetera, et cetera. But then I know that my husband has to work what might be the equivalent of 2 jobs, 3 jobs. And it's not that he's overpaid. There's this, if you were to break it down, how many hours he has to be away from our family, and you look at hourly wages, it's significantly less than a teacher, and I'm a teacher. So when I look at that, and when I'm voting for Measure G, I'm thinking, well, what are we going to do to really support our firefighters, our first responders, these guys and gals who are going into these terrible, like with the stuff they have to experience in the PTSD. I just feel like in general, there's a sense in our community that we're overpaying them. And as a family, I feel like we're underpaying them.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to let Ryan speak to that in terms of the funding allocation, because I'm not sure exactly how the different funds are allocated between fire department specifically and Measure G and how that kind of ties together. So I'm going to punt this over to Ryan.
It's okay.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
Great comments.
That's okay. So Lindsay, the short answer is if you could drop in the chat specifically something, summarize what you would like the local revenue measure to go to. But I can say historically, the local revenue measure has mainly gone to other areas or other priorities identified back in 2014, which mostly was around public safety in the lens of police. So police officers and equipment and those kind of things. That's been broadened a little bit with fire and emergency preparedness. And that can range from additional firefighters to funding from firefighters to open space and wildfire fuel reduction too. So we minimize the risk to fires during the summer and fire season. But not to be long-winded, if you would like to provide input about the compensation to the firefighters, please do so in the chat box. Okay.
I think she's muted again, but thank you very much, Lindsay. We really appreciate the information and the feedback on it. Truly.
Sorry, I wasn't fast enough.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. And I don't know if you heard Ryan, but if you could summarize in the chat box, and then that makes sure that we have everything kind of memorialized in writing and can relay it back to the city.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know, Ryan or Kevin, do we have any other comments?
We don't have any other comments right now, but we certainly have folks in the room. So if you'd like to turn your video on and unmute yourself, or we have plenty of opportunity to do so at this point.
We have a video.
Hi.
Hi.
Is it Jeanette? I'm sorry, I missed your name earlier.
Yes, are you Armando?
Armando, yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Ryan. You're the only one that I recognize here on the list of other city employees. I'm an employee with the city. I do work in the fire department, and I also live here in the city. I wanted to provide some different ideas for the Measure G allocations as it pertains to the fire department. I apologize as well for some of the kids in the background kind of laughing there. So it's that time of day, right?
That's right.
In regards to maintaining fire and community safety, one of the things that I've seen is a growing population, and we see a lot about the growing community and the infrastructure, downtown especially, with the population density. And that's one of our bigger concerns, I know, in the fire department with maintaining. I see under the Measure G, it's maintain fire and community safety. With that, I wanted to comment that I hope that we look at not just maintaining what we currently have, but maintaining the same level of service as we expand in a city and be able to provide those same level of services for the citizens. Another one that we worry about a lot in the fire department is kind of looking at, in Ryan's background there, the open space. That's one thing that we have. We take on a lot of open space. We all enjoy it, but there's a big liability with that as far as responding to that and responding to large scale emergencies. We saw a small scale emergency on South Hills this year, and we were able to wrap that up pretty quick. But you get something like that in different areas with maybe some different winds. And that's where maintaining the same level of services for all of the different emergencies that we might have to respond to is essential. And so I think having those additional funds, we can start to look at what are some different ways that we can provide those same level of services and even expand our services that we weren't providing before, whether it be additional personnel specific to wildland suppression or additional personnel for open space rescues. We respond to probably 3 or 4 significant open space rescues per year on Bishop's Peak. I'm on the county USAR team, so I'm pretty knowledgeable with the technical services that it requires. So those are kind of a couple things that I see that would be good, funding for or use of Measure G funding as it pertains to fire safety.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Hey, Ryan, it's Kevin. There was a request in the chat to post the first slide describing the focus area.
And I'm doing that right now. Great idea. Give me a second and I will make sure I do that. So I'm going to drop the slide in. Here it is. Into the chat box. So folks should be able to see that now. Let me know, does anyone else see that in the chat box? It's a PowerPoint slide. Just one slide.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So Gary, hopefully you can see that. We would love to hear from you directly also, but I hope that's a good reference point for you. I can always read it too, if folks are interested.
Perfect. And hello and welcome, Alec.
Hello. We're trying to navigate having multiple panes open tonight in this new format on Zoom. So I was hearing a little bit about what my wife was talking to you about, and I'm going to give her a high five later for having her husband's back. So I'm Alec Flatos. I'm the fire department union labor president. Welcome to the commission. I just appreciate you guys and what you're doing. You have a big task ahead of you, and I would love to further have your ear if you wanted to chat sometime about what specifically the fire department and what our labor union is looking for and some of the ideas that we have. I can tell you that we walk side by side with our fire chief, and we support his ideas in our progress forward in making our community safer. A couple of things that I just wanted to really emphasize with this commission tonight was it's one that we bring up often, and it's just one that's really hard to see change, because we have to have a commission of people who recognize that the community's safety is paramount. And we all voted on that by passing this tax measure. It was on the first line on the ballot, but I think there's so much more to what does that really mean. And so I'm going to just give you one example of something what that means to the fire department personnel and then the community, which I think was what my wife was trying to say. Sometimes she hears a lot from the labor president, who's her husband, but doesn't really understand where the hang up is between what actually happens. And here's an example for you. we've been saying that we need increased staffing for years and years. So what that means to the commission is, it doesn't just mean more fire engines and more fire personnel. What it means is trying to reach a goal of having enough personnel in our city to supplement whatever emergencies we have at any given time. Now, there's a national agency that dictates rules and laws for the entire country, and they have recommendations. So currently, as far as staffing goes, we don't have enough people today on a structure fire, for example, to have the minimum amount of people we need for any type of structure fire. If you have a candle at a college student's dorm that lights their bedroom on fire, up to extensive fires, we don't have enough personnel today to mitigate those emergencies. And we rely on CAL FIRE. And so what I like to urge to people is, a lot of times we're lucky because over the years we've been able to rely on them to come help us when we need it. But one of the issues with that is, from our perspective, as you guys know, fire seasons are getting worse and they're getting longer. Their resources are spread so thin. And I need everyone to recognize that it would be so important to be able to increase our staffing to the levels to where we can handle those types of incidents without needing to depend on a statewide organization. So that's one example of something that I think would be of huge benefit to our community. It would only mean increasing by a few personnel per day, which we haven't done in decades, by the way. We've had essentially the same number of personnel on duty for way, way too long. We can get into that some other time if the commission would like to convene and invite us in to talk about that. But that's just one example. Specifically, you guys are looking for specific things tonight. An increase in our daily staffing would mean so much for this community in terms of actually being able to handle its own emergencies. So that plays into all types of things, like Armando was talking about earlier with open space. As soon as we have one open space rescue, half of our city is depleted of resources. So if the community voted to increase the safety and protection of our great city, I think this is one of the ways that we can do it. And I appreciate your time tonight.
I really appreciate the feedback and the specifics on how we can help too. I really appreciate that, Alec. Thank you. And thank you to Lindsay. She did a great job for you too, by the way.
And just a reminder for Alec and all folks that are attending, it's important for us to capture that information so we can put that in the online survey so the community members can assign their dots to it. So if you have time, put down
How do I do that specific? How do I put it into the or what ask that to be put in?
You can do it right now. So on the bottom of your screen, there should be like a chat icon. You open that up, type away.
Oh, okay. You just want that in the chat menu as a way to log that?
Log it, and more importantly, this becomes the online community survey form that I'm going to be putting together tonight for launching tomorrow. Yep.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate what you're doing, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Orlando, same thing.
Yeah, I want to say thank you for those specifics. Those are really helpful for us. So definitely please include that kind of feedback for us, because that will really help us kind of inform what decisions we need to make. This is really enlightening for us to know about those specific issues.
So it looks like Gary, I don't know if you would like to make a comment, but I see your face, and so I'm going to call you out now.
Well, there you are. I am also here as a representative of the bike community. I appreciate that we have community members that are so dedicated to their points of view. And I don't mean this in any disparaging way, but I really appreciate the comments made by people supporting fire and safety in San Luis Obispo. Hooray for that. And I support that. And I'm here to support also the things that I'm passionate about, and those are bicycling and what bicycling can do for our community, and specific related to the climate action plan that we've got set out for us for 2035, and to kind of focus on what, or add to what Garrett said about using funds to complete projects. My question for you is, and reason why I asked to have the first slide put up, and I'm looking to see where climate action response is part of what money can be spent on, because I think it's going to be spent on that, but I didn't see it listed particularly. So if I was going to put something in the chat, I would say spend Measure G money on things that promote our climate action plan and its implementation. And I'm here as a bicyclist to say that, yeah, we're looking for that 20% mode shift. We're looking to see the new active transportation plan implemented so that we can try to, I use a word, mine those people who are thinking about bicycling and create infrastructure so they change their mind to get out of their car and make a commute or make another journey that they would have taken by car by bike instead, because this is the way that we're actually going to use that portion of our efforts to get us forward to our climate action goal. So if you want me to put something in the chat box referring to that or create a question, I will be, for the dot session, I'll be happy to make a short sentence on that.
That would be wonderful. Thank you, Gary. And I don't know if you want my feedback on that or not, but as it relates to, okay, I'll tell you. So as it relates to climate action and the REOC, if you go back and look at historically where our funds have been spent, the majority of the funds, and Ryan can correct me if I'm wrong, but they go towards what's called street paving, and included in that is our bike lanes as well. And so it includes the protected bike lanes, it includes, you know, all the infrastructure, the little roundabouts to make everything a lot easier to bike. And I know it's a little bit confusing because it's not specifically broken out, but it is included in that. We try to put little asterisks so that people know that the street paving also includes the bike lanes as well. And Ryan, you can talk on that if you'd like as well.
Yeah, perfect, great response. The only thing I'll add is we have 75 words or less maximum to put in about language. So we have to be very strategic and surgical based upon the top priorities that the community has identified through almost 2 years of public engagement before we put something on the ballot. That being said, Commissioner Chairperson McClure is absolutely correct. When we maintain our streets, we bring that up to what we call, a really high standard, and we always try to incorporate as much multimodal features into that slurry seal, into that reconstruction of the road. So oftentimes you won't see just new asphalt or striping. You'll see additional bike lanes and those kinds of infrastructure enhancements. The other thing I want to note is the ballot language does have other kind of general and infrastructure services. And so there's an opportunity there to add things tonight that you would like the Revenue Enhancement Oversight Commission to consider when they do review the city's local revenue measure funded projects, and ultimately what the council reviews as well. So there is an opportunity for you to provide that input, do it in the chat, and that way the REOC can consider that when they consider the recommendation of the local revenue measure funded portion of the budget to the city council in the spring. So long-winded short answer is, add it to the chat. The REOC has the responsibility, and their purview is to consider all input and make a recommendation to the city council. So please add that to the chat. Gary.
Yes, and I understand that this is one of the least expensive ways to add bike infrastructure to city streets. However, I also understand that in order to get people who are reluctant or timid about bicycling, what they are looking for is much safer infrastructure than just striping on the street, because they don't feel comfortable with a white line separating them from motorists or other heavy users. So I will consider writing a statement or writing something that has to do with, I see that that's being done. I've experienced it being done. I will cycle any place. It's okay by me. It's not about me. It's about getting those people timid about cycling to actually get out and experience cycling and start changing their transportation habits to bicycling or walking or something other than a single person trip in a car. That takes a form of street street striping that takes the form of class 1 grade separated bike paths, the new class 4 that the ATP calls out. There's a lot of ways to do that, and just again, I appreciate that the city has done the work it has with restriping, repaving, and some of the work in my own neighborhood, and I just want to be sure to sit here and promote it.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that, Gary. And I don't know if you've been on Laurel Lane, I'm sure you have, but that project was part of REOC, and I believe that they actually eliminated one of the car lanes and created, I think it's probably called Tier 1, maybe it's Tier 4. I don't know the exact language for the bicycle lanes, but they created a protected bicycle lane, and that was part of REOC, which is, yeah.
I believe that's a class 4.
Okay.
And a tier 1 is language I understand goes towards our active transportation plan. Class 1 is the grade separated, like the railroad safety trail. Class 2 is a bike lane designated bike lane on the street. So yes, thank you very much, and I do appreciate you. And that Laurel Lane project is fabulous. And and I'll put this in I'll express some. This is what also Bike Slow County can do, is help with motorist outreach. Because I've had many friends say, "What am I supposed to do with Laurel Lane? What does this mean?" So we'll be considering working, as Bike Slow County has done with the city on education, both for cyclists and for motorists. And thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Gary. Let's see, I noticed that we had a couple new people join. I don't know if anyone else has any other comments. Going to specifically call out Michael Ortiz iPhone. No. Okay.
A quick question. I know when we were discussing initially the measure, I'm not even sure if it was measure G, when we were first talking about this ballot measure, and there was some critical infrastructure needs. The police station was one of them. Some of the overpasses. Is that still part of some of the funding mechanism for those things? I didn't see it on the ballot measure specifically, but I just wanted to check.
I believe so. I'm punting this over to Ryan though, because it was on our last budget, and I'm not sure how everything got reallocated with COVID or what's going on for the next cycle. So I'm passing that to Ryan.
It's a great question. The council has used local revenue measure in the past for some of the design and engineering costs for some of the preliminary plans for the replacement of the police station. We're actually going to be coming back to the city council in the spring with some options to ensure that we are going in the right direction based upon what the city council's input. Right now, if you think about it, the 2-year financial plan is really an opportunity to really reevaluate and ensure that the local revenue measure funded projects should continue, or if the Revenue Enhancement Oversight Commission should consider new projects or shift things around based upon the community's input and priority at the time. So again, there has been some funding allocated toward the replacement of the police station for design and engineering. We're at a kind of an opportunity to really check in, and it's going to be a major item in the spring to City Council. We did the same thing for a parking structure in the downtown, Palm de Pomo, to really, we're at this point in the process. Where do you want us to go from here? And so that'll be an important touch point with the City Council in the spring as we head into the final adoption of the 21-23 financial plan. So I hope that answers it.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah. Any other I'm going to pick on somebody I know. So
Hello. Hey, Ryan.
Hi, Molly.
I don't know if I have any questions. I guess I'm always just interested to hear what other people are talking about. having just entered the room, I'm not sure what's been talked about. I know I work with the San Luis Obispo Chamber of Commerce, and we're quite interested in seeing the city come up with helping the city come up with a prioritized list of infrastructure projects that reach different goals. And so when we're thinking about those that help reach multimodal and climate action goals, those that help improve circulation for our community, and those that are for safety or for sort of community well-being, coming up with those lists and then identifying projects that are on one or more list to help make sure that we're using our money in sort of the highest and best way, as opposed to focusing on projects that that can only achieve one goal. We know we have extensive and really great plans for the general plan, downtown concept plan, land use and circulation element, housing element, all these different things. And want to focus on the areas of overlap, because even with the renewal and expansion of Measure G, we still need to prioritize. We still need to be smart with how we spend our money. So it's not a question, but.
Commissioners?
Yeah, I would just express my gratitude for that point being made. I think that's the way we should be thinking about our prioritization of goals and objectives and project priorities. So I think that's something we'll want to keep our eye on moving forward. And so good feedback, and it should be a foundation of how we think about things. So I agree.
And this is probably a good reminder just for the folks that are attending. We're about, if we're on time, I think we are, we're about 25-ish, a little less than 25 minutes away from everyone coming back as a group. So not to take all of everyone's time, but if there's an opportunity you would like to jump to another station, please consider doing that. I don't want to kick you out, but I want to be mindful of everyone's kind of time. And there's a number of other different sessions: homelessness, climate action, open space, and so forth. So just a reminder, if you want to jump out and listen into those conversations and ask questions, please do so.
I actually have a quick question, Ryan. In past budget years, a lot of the local revenue measure funded projects will pop up under different major city goals and things like that. And then at some point be sort of cataloged all into one list. I know it can be, for those of us that read all of the pages, can sometimes be a little bit hard to follow. Do you know if that's sort of the similar presentation that you guys are hoping for this year, or if there's going to be some structural changes to how this information is shared with the public?
Great question. I'll say this. I think we saw a lot of this in the last financial plan, but we're looking for absolutely new ways to show, visually speaking, how a lot of these projects overlap. So you're right, a lot of the local revenue measure funded projects are also falling under major city goals. For example, sustainable transportation, we had 2 years ago as a major city goal. A lot of those were local revenue measure funded. And we did a new visual in the 2019-21 financial plan where we had a Venn diagram, which is those kind of 3 circles. And you could see visually a lot of those projects and services had a lot of overlap with those major city goals. And I would imagine that's going to be the same now. If you look at a lot of the priorities identified in the ballot measure and what will probably be similar major city goals and other priorities identified by the community, a lot of them have synergy qualities where if it's environmental, it also if it protects the environment, it also may increase our circulation, right? So, and then if we build more infill housing, that'll help with the environment and also reduce traffic. So a lot of those are again have kind of synergy qualities to them, and ideally in a perfect world, they check more than one box. They're not necessarily standalone. And that's really how we best kind of govern a community to ensure that there's multiple people that take advantage of that infrastructure and or service. But I will definitely, Molly, build in a lot of really cool visuals to pop out so the general community can really understand what we're trying to do versus a long list.
I will say that the Venn diagram has come up multiple times in the conversations that I have had in advance of this meeting. That people loved it last year.
Okay, all right.
Took it on quite the road show, so it did make an impact.
And then Molly, just a reminder: if you have any specific things you would like the Revenue Enhancement Oversight Commission to consider, please do so in the chat. That information will be manually or directly uploaded into the online community forum survey that will be open tomorrow.
Yeah, Molly, if you're still on, one of the ones that comes to mind right now is like the downtown vitality, and wondering how the chamber, if there's anything that the REOC can do to partner with that or to help achieve that goal.
Yeah, I'd say we do also work really closely with the Downtown SLO, which used to be called the Downtown Association, in anything that's going on down there. But some things that come to mind immediately are making a few of the improvements that happened as sort of pilot programs in wake of COVID, whether they be parklets, the realignment of Higuera to have more bike access and one fewer lane. That has been really impactful. And when we look at like what a city can do to help businesses when the thing that they're fighting is a small organism flying around in the air, that type of infrastructure has been really, really helpful, and making it permanent, I think, will be in our city's long-term best interest. So definitely that. I also put in the chat the Prado Road overpass or interchange, and also Tank Farm Road. When we think of major arterials in our community that can take the weight, as it were, off of some other roads that we know to be a bit more dangerous, get a lot of wear and tear, can be harder for multimodal transportation. Those are two that commuters, I think, in particular, would really use quite a bit. And even as we're looking at some of the new housing communities coming online, can really help with general just circulation of our community and a better experience regardless of how you choose to get around.
Thank you very much. I'm going to pull a Ryan, but if you wouldn't mind putting some of the downtown comments in the chat box, that would be wonderful. Particularly the bike lanes and the parklets. Thanks, Molly. I think we have a couple other people. Grace, welcome. I don't know if there's anything that you would like to share with us.
Just hopped in, so not right now. Thanks.
Well, hello and welcome. Sorry to call you out. We've spoken with almost everyone else. We've had some great discussion. If there's anything that you can think of that you would like revenue enhancement, the local revenue measure funds allocated towards, let us know.
Well, I must preface with I'm the 40 Prado Homeless Services Center director, so I'm always looking at ways for our folks to get livable wages or opportunities to participate. We just partnered with the Downtown Business Association to do outreach in the downtown area, and we're hoping that that's going to actually morph into an opportunity to obtain some employment for some of our participants at 40 Prado. A livable wage, I mean, what does that mean exactly? Certainly nowhere near what any of my my folks at Prado are earning. That's going to be a major barrier, along with obviously a lot of other issues that they're struggling with and coping with, but opportunities for employment for all would be great.
Absolutely. Do you have any other suggestions as well, Grace? One of our top priorities as part of the local revenue measure is to, help address homelessness. So if there's any other ideas you have in addition to employment, I would love to hear them.
let me start my video here. Oh, there we go. I had technical issues.
Grace.
Hi, Ryan. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Oh, just if you had, a wish list and you could have money thrown at anything, what would your wish list be to help address homelessness in San Luis Obispo?
Oh my goodness. Well, more assistance to help our folks navigate some of the very challenging support systems like mental health and substance use, employment. Challenges now, of course, because COVID has almost shut down pretty much all of the services that our folks really need. It's been very, very, very difficult. But access, I mean, we've tried to add more services at 40 Prado. We have a county behavioral health therapist now. We have CHC there, the medical, the exam rooms are there on site. But access is very challenging. I mean, not only for the unhoused, but I try getting a specialty care referral and it takes me weeks, right? I mean, imagine being someone that doesn't really have a phone or doesn't have, the ability to navigate the various systems. Imagine being frail and elderly, trying to get across town. These are all just issues that a lot of us really aren't aware of until we go and live it or see it. So maybe that's it. One of the big things actually in the last one I was in, the homeless, one gentleman very wisely said, it's very hard for us to sit and imagine. And therefore that's why I get out and volunteer, or I go and I help. And because then I really see what it's about. And so I guess that's the thing is for us to really see what it's like to be in their shoes.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
Great. I actually have a question for you. I was recently reading about what Bakersfield had done with their Built for Zero program. And I was wondering if that was something you had more knowledge on and if it's something that might be a fit for San Luis Obispo.
If it's like our functional zero, which is what we run the Veteran Services Program as well, so homeless vets. And on a national level, we put up what we call functional zero goal. And we're there in terms of veterans. And I would say the main reason is because in the last 4 years, there's been a tremendous amount of support for veteran services programs to serve homeless vets. And we have 2 full housing navigators. We have 2 full-time case managers. We have, outreach workers. I mean, we've just had a lot of support that, other service providers, including 40 Prado, simply don't have. And I think it's been that level of support to help these homeless veterans and their families get the services that they need. Not only help them get housed, but maintain housing, because that we know is the most challenging. 3 months in are the most vulnerable times for someone who is newly housed for a variety of reasons. And so it's not just, we'll get them housed and then see you later. It's staying with them, maintaining that support, making sure that, they continue on their path. So functional zero for us means basically that there will always be an influx of individuals who fall into homelessness. But the goal then is to get them out of homelessness as soon as possible. And for our community, we put a goal of less than 90 days. And we hit that a good 1.5 years ago. So now it's an average of about 63 days. We're able to get veteran families housed. So that's kind of it. And I don't know the specifics. I do know that Bakersfield has come to 40 Prado because they want to build a center similar to ours that has a lot of services on site. But really access is a huge issue. Either getting them immediate access or getting them the support to access. and then continue to support them once they're housed. So that's what functional zero is, at least for us. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. I put a link to a story in the chat that I had come across that talks about it a little bit more, but yeah, it's really amazing what we've been able to do locally with veterans. And I think it hopefully can serve as a bit of a plan or a sketch or a path or whatever it is for how what, if expanded, could help even more people who aren't veterans.
I have to tell you, one major barrier is the cost of housing here. Cost of housing in Bakersfield is very different than the cost of housing in San Luis Obispo.
Yeah, absolutely. And we work really closely not only with our private developers, but also nonprofit developers and agencies to try and advocate for the building of more housing of all kinds, because we know that in San Luis Obispo specifically, the demand so greatly outstrips the supply that it is unaffordable for anyone to buy a home here, let alone the most vulnerable among us. And that any injection of supply helps relieve some of that pressure. So we're excited to see some of the new housing coming on board, but do definitely see an opportunity for some of that permanent supportive housing that other communities have. See an opportunity for that in SLO.
That'd be great.
Yeah, thank you both very much. Appreciate it.
And Grace, just a reminder, please use the chat box feature for any new ideas that you would like us to consider to help address some of the issues you raised.
Yeah, particularly on the access, that was really interesting. Maybe something we can actually, make an action item on. Be great.
I can keep talking if no one else wants to add anything, but I don't want to hog the whole session. I know we have only have 10 minutes left. One of the things that was part of the new sort of Measure G was retention of local business. And so something that we're really focused on right now and want to make sure there's sort of a shared awareness of is that costs to help support and retain businesses during COVID, like those costs shouldn't go away when everyone is vaccinated and things are able to be reopened. That reopening, I think, can be made so much more successful when we have city support behind it. We've seen, can't say enough good things about how the city has responded so far to help with promotion and moving quickly, really being so much more nimble than we knew we could be. And would encourage the REOC group to consider what something that sort of is a currently amorphous sort of holding of money for sort of reopening support and activation, because we know that the faster, once the reopening can happen safely and in a healthy way, the faster we can reactivate and reinvigorate our economy will actually generate more Measure G funds that we can use for other things in our community in the long run. And so it is a really sort of virtuous cycle for that sort of investment and funding. So just want to put a little comment on that one.
Absolutely. Molly, would you mind expanding on exactly, kind of what you envision the funds going towards as it relates to reopening?
Yeah, I think it's really going to depend on when that reopening can happen, what support will be needed. I think we could see something that was, some sort of incentive to fill storefronts, where it's, the city has this pilot tenant improvement fast track program right now that supports anyone who wants to come in and fill a storefront. They can have some funding to help defer costs for that type of construction, and also has promised and delivered on a fast tracking of those permits. I think that type of process could be expanded, and I think the demand for it might go up a lot also. So not sure what that, pool would need to look like. Something along, partnering potentially with a great community resource like the Hot House to get startups up and running and into potentially pilot spaces where they're testing something out. We could do something, you know, I want to say sort of inspired by the PPP program, but definitely not the exact same, where, you know, there's something where people are able to hire one employee in the city of SLO. They could get a bonus to defer some of those initial training costs. Something where if there's, you know, if it happens to be in the off season for tourism, something where we're really expanding what the TBID is able to do with promoting, you know, overnight stays, because we know that those do more than just fill hotel rooms. It increases spending throughout the city, and helps those employee bases get going. Could see something as it relates to helping with childcare, because as many people are transitioning to working in person who are currently working remotely, we know that childcare is a huge need and is one of those keystones that keeps people out of the workplace. I could genuinely talk about this forever though, and I know we're getting close to it. So I would actually look forward to talking to anyone who would like to more. You can find all of my contact information on the SLO Chamber website. But those are just some
I appreciate it. Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you, Molly. And I think before we wrap up, we have someone else that joined us. Welcome, Nancy. I wanted to give you an opportunity if you had any thoughts, suggestions, comments on our REOC funds and how they're spent before they push us back into the main room.
Thank you. The only thing that I don't know if this was covered, but I will advocate for it because I myself think it would be nice if we had an after hours urgent care. So something open from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. so that you don't have to go to the emergency room for non-emergency issues, but more just general. The example I will use is my husband had part of his hearing aid that fell off in his ear, and we didn't have long enough tweezers to get it out ourselves, but then we had to go to the emergency room because that was the only thing that was available. And then we had to wait for all the people that had like real emergencies. So it would be nice if they, I don't know if like Dignity or if Tenet or if Cottage is looking at doing that. So maybe they might have the staff and we just have to provide the infrastructure, but it would be nice to have something urgent care that's after hours. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Ryan, I think I'll let you talk on, I am not familiar with the way that the city interacts with our local medical system in terms of allocating resources.
Yeah, that's historically, that is something that the city does not particularly fund. It's a private sector, and in some communities it's nonprofit, depending on what the hospital or medical center is set up as, or it could be as part of a university like Stanford or UCLA. So that would be something, but that doesn't mean we're here to listen and provide it and understand your input. So Nancy, please, if you can, kind of summarize your thoughts and ideas and put those in the chat box. That would be very, very helpful. Those will get added to the online survey. It's an area historically that we have not funded in any which way as an organization, but we do partner with a lot of agencies, and that's something we can take a look at if it rises to the level of considered a major city goal for the city council.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Nancy. Ryan, I don't want to go on a tangent on healthcare, but it seems like, you know, that came up a little bit tonight. How does the city, you know, I don't know if it would interact necessarily with retaining businesses or, you know, bringing new businesses in, but, you know, it seems like there is a significant shortage of doctors in the area. I don't know if there's anything that the city has thought about doing. I don't know if it's partnering with the chamber or, you know, trying to attract new medical businesses to the city.
Great question. I don't know of any. However, I would say all options are on the table. There are, and I don't want to speak out of turn because this is not an area that I know a lot about, but I do know this. The city has the ability through its zoning regulations, use permits, conditional use permits, to emphasize or not emphasize a variety of uses through what the city's called the general plan and zoning regulations. So if a city is deficient in a particular industry, they can utilize their land use and zoning regulations to essentially incentivize new buildings of hospitals and medical infrastructure. Whether we directly fund them, that's I personally have never heard of that. However, there's ways that we can partner and understand where those deficiencies are and incentivize that type of economic development where there's no new medical offices and all that. Other cities sometimes do the opposite, where there's a concentration. I'm totally getting out of my world here, but like in the city of Atascadero, they have a lot of medical offices and dentist offices that are downtown. And so they want to turn that into more of a multi-use or mixed use area. So they're incentivizing dentists and medical offices to actually leave the downtown and put them in other areas outside the downtown. So there are creative ways that the city can do that. I would say indirectly, if that makes sense.
I can also just hop in and say that we work very closely with our medical members also, and they share a desire to hire more doctors and more nurses and bring people in, and that talent is hard to bring to San Luis Obispo for lots of different reasons, housing being a big one. And also the pay rate that medical professionals get here is we're designated as a rural reimbursement area. So through different things that the city has absolutely no control over, it can be a hard sell. But the other thing I would say is that something that certain cities, counties, and states do as it relates to economic development is give relocation bonuses of certain types, sizes, and structures to different types of businesses or industries, or do some other financial incentive in addition to land use design to bring or attract businesses of a certain kind. It happens much less in California than it does in some other states like Louisiana, Kentucky, and Texas, but it is still a possible function.
Excellent.
Hey,
That's great.
this is Kevin. I just wanted to remind you that it's 8:15.
Thank you very much, Kevin. So I believe then, are we supposed to go into the main Zoom session?
That's correct. And just to, Kevin, can you do me a solid and repost that in the chat, the main room, or the city's website, whichever one.
Yes.
Yep, perfect. Okay. So here's what oh, sorry, I don't want to talk. Sorry.
No, go for it. Ryan, you're on.
Thank you, everyone. Greatly appreciate it. On behalf of the Revenue Enhancement Oversight Commission, thank you for your input. Now's the time to use that chat box. Click on that. It'll take you back to the city's dedicated webpage for the community forum, and then click on the main Zoom session, and you'll go right back to where we're supposed to be. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.